Hi, my name is Sue Jeffers. Thank you so much for joining us today in our series, Meet the Candidates. Today I'm lucky enough to have MarkLazarchic. Oh, how bad did I beat that one up?
Lazarchic.
Lazarchic,
Yep.
And you are running for House of Representatives in 59A.
Right, Northeast Minneapolis.
Northeast Minneapolis, which has been predominantly Democrat for many, many, many years.
40-some years.
40-some years. Yeah. Well, you know what? I come from the school of thought. It's time to throw some of these bums out of there, and I'm happy to start in your district.
Well, thank you.
Tell us why you decided to run.
I became a delegate 3 years ago because I wanted to be more involved. If I was going to complain and gripe about everything, I should probably step up and do a little bit more. And then this year, they actually approached me and asked me if I would run. And they kept asking me, and finally I said, all right, I'll run. I don't have a problem with that. I don't like the people that are in charge right now. So I'll run and I'll win, and then I'll show you guys how to do it right.
I love the line that they have that says we'd be better off being led by the first 400 names in the phone book than by the people we've elected to put into office, or some version of that that's out there.
Yeah, I've always been troubled by the fact that the people that run for office are generally the people that we don't want in office.
And what amazes me now is it doesn't take a whole lot of common sense to see government's out of control. Mm-hmm. And people who have never before cared about politics all of a sudden care about politics this year. And the fact that you were a delegate and then stepped up to the plate to run for office speaks volumes, because I think we're seeing that all across the state of Minnesota.
Well, yeah, people tend to keep politics in their home, and when it starts infringing upon their home and they start being touched by it, then they become involved because they want to know what's going on. Most people are too busy to really spend too much time on this and to focus on what's really going on. They have families, they have children, and they have American Idol to watch, so they don't have time to follow everything. I own my own business. I have plenty of time to follow things and keep track of what's going on. And if most people knew what was going on, they'd be a lot more involved. They just don't think it affects them, and they don't get involved until it does affect them.
Mm-hmm. And people should understand politics touches every aspect of your life. So what do you think are some of the big issues when you go out and around in 59A? What do you hear people talking about? What's important to them?
Well, the things you're hearing in 59A, it's an incredibly diverse community, and it's also an older community. So you're hearing a lot about seniors, a lot of concerns from seniors. The other thing is property taxes in our area. My property taxes have quadrupled in the time that I've been living in my house, which is 8 years. In 8 years, my property taxes have quadrupled. And we're told that the mortgage companies are the ones, sticking it to everybody. Well, I have an adjustable arm rate on my mortgage, and it's gone up by $200 in 8 years. My property tax, on the other hand, are over $5,000 right now. Yeah, I don't live on Lake Minnetonka in some giant mansion. I live in Northeast Minneapolis in a normal house, and I pay $5,000 a year in property taxes right now. And once you start pointing out to people, well, you got your property taxes, now you got your income tax, now you got your federal income tax, now you got tax on your water bill, you got tax on your phone bill, you got sales tax for everything you buy, which is higher in Hennepin County than it is anywhere else.
Anywhere else.
Yeah, you just go down the list of all the little taxes that you keep getting nitpicked on. I'm a smoker, how much am I paying in taxes for that? I have a couple bottles of wine with my wife every week, how much am I paying in tax on that? We have, the 6th highest gas tax in the country? I fill up my gas tank every week. Now I'm paying taxes on that. I don't mind taxes. I'm not, one of these ardent anarchists that want to build a bunker somewhere and not pay anything. But let's show a little responsibility here. Let's not just keep tapping the well and spending it willy-nilly whenever we want.
It's out of control.
Yeah, the state budget's 20% short this year. Guess what? My sales in my company are 20% down this year. I'm making cuts and budgeting for it. I think they should be doing the same thing. Instead of looking to raise more revenue to cover it, you don't raise revenue to cover it. You deal with it, and you cut some services that they provide.
Okay, so let's talk about this legislative session over there. What's the first thing they did? They come in and passed almost $1 billion bonding bill.
Yeah.
Governor Pawlenty told us how he really just veto this, veto that. Well, it's still over $700 million put on our state credit card. Do you think that's a fiscally sound, responsible way to handle the budget deficit we're facing?
It's asinine. It's, you know, these are the same people that sit here and complain about people getting overextended in their lives and having to file bankruptcy and having $50,000 in credit card debt and then taking on mortgages they can't afford, yet they're setting the example here by spending more money than they take in and looking for more ways to stretch out the payments on it so that we're not responsible for it now. It's ridiculous the way they spend money. I recommend the state goes bankrupt. And then,
like California.
Exactly. Let them go bankrupt, and then they'll learn and maybe progress from there on how to keep within their, you know, their means. It's real simple. You don't spend more than you have. It's just that simple.
That simple.
It's not that tough.
But to listen to anyone in public office almost anyone in public office in the state of Minnesota, it's way more complicated to that. But it really is that simple.
Well, yeah. I was talking with Tom Emmer last week, and he told me that there's a program to where we spent $1.5 million last year to get 59 low-income people housing. Okay, so 1.5 million. So I pulled out my phone and did the math. That's $25,000 per person. Now these low-income people made less than $20,000, which already, I mean, how much of a home can you really buy if you're only making under $20,000? You know, not everyone needs to live in a home. Some people can rent. Some people can live in apartments. But we spent 25 grand on families that made less than 20 grand so that they could have a house. Now, I'm not advocating this, but give them the 25 grand and be done with it. Now they make 45 grand and they can afford to live in a house. It's that kind of mentality that is just ridiculous. It doesn't matter how much it costs. As long as we're doing the right thing or the good thing, they're all for it. You know, spend $82 billion to save 13 trees. Trees grow. You can plant new ones. It's amazing how they'll do that.
We're spending millions on that ash borer. It's in Minneapolis now, you know.
Yeah, they're cutting down my elm trees. They're cutting down the ash trees. They're going to cut down all the trees and then blame it on me for some reason.
All right. You mentioned you were a small business owner.
Yeah.
And well, let's talk about what a negative economic environment the state of Minnesota is for small business owners.
Oh, geez. I sell fireworks, which puts me one step below
a bar owner.
Pornography. I mean, it's the hurdles you have to jump through to get things done is just amazing. If a city doesn't want you there, they just create roadblock after roadblock after roadblock to keep you out. We've had different bodies around the metro area call up private owners of businesses and say, hey, we're going to come down and just hassle you and inspect you if you let these people set up because we don't want them there. And I've stood in city council meetings where they've told me the community doesn't want me there. And I've said, well, if I set up and they don't buy anything from me, I'm not going to come back and set up again, which means they don't want me there. But if I set up and they buy from me, they obviously do want me there. And you're supposed to represent these people. And apparently I was speaking Chinese because they just don't understand what I'm saying when I say these things. And it's just amazing. If I'm selling flowers on a street corner, they don't care. But I sell fireworks, so therefore I am, the evil man, blowing off kids' hands and whatnot, despite the fact that, people really don't get hurt from fireworks.
Amazing. I owned a business in Minneapolis for 30 years, so I know how difficult when I sold the business, I said, I'll never own another business in this godforsaken city again. Yeah, and you know what? When I bought a new home, I didn't buy a new home in Hennepin County either, because it is one of the most expensive places to live or to do business.
It's expensive to do everything.
We have to turn that around here in the state of Minnesota.